Hello and welcome back to another Beyond Wrestling and to another edition of AEW Dynamite Out of 10. It's a big episode today because it's the 6th anniversary of AEW Dynamite, and for that kind of landmark, we've got several big tag team matches, as well as the TNT Championship match between Cole Fletcher and Orange Cassidy. We kick things off with Omega and Brody taking on the Young Bucks and Josh Alexander. Alexander fought hard throughout, but once Brody cleared the ring, a V-trigger, 21 plex and one winged angel sealed the pinfall win by Omega on the walking weapon. Afterwards, the cleaner tried to clean things up with the Young Bucks. Instead, Alexander attacked him from behind. Jurassic Express arrived to take the Bucks out while Omega fought off the walking weapon. Omega thanked the fans for their support before Andrade made his shock return to attack him in a line with Don Callis. A wild 30 minutes of TV that escalated in multiple unexpected ways. The match that opened the show was everything it promised to be. Alexander was especially giving to the babyfaces and made them look like destructive forces throughout the contest. Omega was always going to win here, but before he making a big return to the ring, he looked good, but still probably not at his peak. Still, AEW needs the cleaner, and hopefully he stays healthy. Proved how popular he is. It was ultimately a swerve to set up the return of Andrade. Many will have feelings about, the way he's kind of bounced between WWE and AEW, but there's no denying his talent. If Omega and Callis, two of AEW stalwarts, are willing to work with him, Tony Khan is happy to bring back that, and he should be a good addition to the roster. I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do. 8 out of 10. We then got the TNT title match between Cole Fletcher and Orange Cassidy. Cassidy found several ways to avoid the brainbuster, but not put away Fletcher. Hologram arrived only to trip Freshly Squeezed on the top rope, setting him up to take the brainbuster for a loss. Afterwards, fake Hologram revealed himself to be El Clon, and along with the Don Callis family, and the whole stable stood on the ramp. Unsurprisingly, Cassidy and Fletcher were good together, though this match did not quite sell Freshly Squeezed as a real threat to the Protest style down the stretch. Even with limited drama, there's a strong first chapter in what became a great rivalry down the line as a conglomeration faces the family. Callis has been stable, become comically large, which sets the stage for him to lose members. With Andrade, you could use a mouthpiece like Callis. Teshka should immediately find his opening to turn on his manager to raise the stakes. Archer, Romero and Trent look more than expendable. Cage too. Wardlow might be written off while recovering. Even with the potential extras, this does illustrate why AEW might want to scout potential managers for the roster. Callis cannot elevate all these names at the same time, but yeah, I'll give it a 6 out of 10. The Death Riders then took on Hangman, Samoa Joe and Hobbs. Page was a house of fire throughout this match, hitting out every member of the Death Riders. He picked up the win over Claudio with a buckshot. Afterwards, Joe took offence to the Cowboys' attitude, and the two almost started brawling before security intervened. Backstage, Hangman gave Joe a chance to win back his World Championship, setting a challenge for Wrestle Dream. More good action lived up on the legacy of AEW on its anniversary, especially highlighting a fun dynamic between Garcia and Hobbs. The closing sequence between Hangman and Claudio was fantastic and could have set up a title match at Wrestle Dream. Instead, AEW swerved the focus to the Joe match with a great post-match angle. The Cowboy and Joe have obvious chemistry and among the best workers in the business, so this is sure to be a best watch. Hopefully you see them in live mics before the match. 7 out of 10. So we then moved on to Timeless Toni Storm versus Tay Mello. Mello gave her a strong fight, but she was able to reverse the TKO and follow out with a corner hip attack and Storm Zero for the victory. Afterwards, the Timeless One made clear she's not done with Chris, but is struggling to figure out who she is without her title. This felt quick, but they made the most of just the 8 minutes to tell the story of Mello trying to level up. She looked good, but couldn't quite match Storm, and there's little drama in that regard, even when she teased the TKO. The segment accomplished its goals. Mello fought hard while Storm regains the top potential challenge slot. 6 out of 10. As we then moved on to Gates of Agony versus the Swell, Bishop Khan and Leona took Christian and Johnson too lightly early on, allowing the Swell to stay in this. Gayaway finally put them away with elevated double. Hurt Syndicate arrived and MVP admitted he failed Lashley and Benjamin. They challenged the demand to a street fight next week, which Ricochet accepted. This was a standard affair and match setup. GOA gave the Swell enough to not bury them because he still became obvious with the win. It was good to see the Hurt Syndicate in full and ready to get right back into the ring, not waiting until Wrestle Dream for the Trio 3 match. MVP, Lashley and Benjamin would rather get their win back here, but AEW needs to find a way to keep the demand hot afterwards. Perhaps they can be the ones to dethrone the Ots when Shibata is back. Who knows? I'm going to give this segment alone a 5 out of 10. We then got tornado tag action between Statlander and Darby Allin versus Marina Shafir and Wheeler Yuta. And after a wild brawl, Shafir got powered by Yuta. This led to her accidentally choking out Yuta and setting in for a 450 stat from Stat and coffin drop from Allin for the victory. Timeless Tony arrived afterwards to stare down the champ and start brawling. Allin whipped Yuta with a leather belt in the ring until Pac made the save. The Bastard choked out Allin while Mox promised he would say I quit. This was a delightful main event where all 4 contestants worked hard. Shafir clearly wrestling with an intense need to prove herself herself, knowing she was competing with 3 strong competitors. This is more hardcore than chaotic, but it was entertaining, elevated especially by Alan and Stats. The weapon uses was more especially memorable down the line, and Shafir more than held her own, with Storm and Stat not having quite sold the need for a brawl in their face-off. They're clearly excited about elevating their feud quickly in the next couple of weeks. The Timeless One has enough credibility to tease that she could possibly get her gold back right away, even if she couldn't. Meanwhile, Alan has just a couple of weeks to figure out how he can beat Mox at Wrestle Dream, and Jeff, for sure he's going to need some help. I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. Overall, AEW Dynamite gets a 6 out of 10 from me. I thought, yeah, this was a pretty decent episode of AEW Dynamite this week. Obviously, some very interesting matches being set up for Wrestle Dream now, including Hangman versus Joe. Despite missing some strong stars throughout the card, it does feel like AEW though has got a lot of interesting feuds on at the moment, especially, you know, sprinkled in with the return of Andrade, etc, etc. I think there's a lot of good going on in AEW right now. So that's it for this video. Thanks very much for watching. Remember to like, share, subscribe, follow us on our socials, link in the description below for daily wrestling news, meme and content. Subscribe to our other channels on screen right now, that'd be greatly appreciated. Thanks very much for watching. Peace out.